Magazine Dreams is the latest film from actor Jonathan Majors. It's the story of a young man named Killian Maddox who dreams of fame and fortune as a bodybuilder, despite his own defects and insurmountable obstacles. Killian Maddox is a young man who grows up with his stepfather, or his uncle, after the death of his parents, which we later learn is a part of his tragic past. Majors has done a very good job here, as he always does, of constructing a character that is troubled and yet still sympathetic. His character does monstrous things here, and some things that are just unnerving. But we still root for him. We want his character to win, despite the fact that his character actually doesn't deserve to win. And that's the rub. These characters, these supposed incels, back in the day we called them outcasts. If we go all the way back to Ernest Borgnine and Marty, someone who's awkward, socially inept, perhaps somewhat of a mental defective, yet still this person deserves to have some life, deserves to have some joy. Jonathan Majors gives us that feeling, that ideal of this person being worthwhile, despite their flaws, despite their failings. We see him as a caretaker to his father, which is something that the story emphasizes over and over again. His stepfather. It's an extremely good thing to see in a film because it gives a grounding. This is not a bad character. This is not a bad man. But his circumstances and the fact that he fights through them unapologetically and selflessly, helping his father, trying to be a good person, trying to reach out to others as best he can, despite his flaws. We see his counselor, his psychologist, his therapist trying to connect with him as best she can. And we watch as Jonathan gives her lies that he knows she wants to hear. It's somewhat heartbreaking to see it. He wants so badly for people to like him that he's willing to construct fantasies to make them happy. When we see him go on a date and he attempts to reach out to the girl, we see what he's doing and we see why she reacts the way she reacts. He's coming off as someone who is psychotic, which he possibly is. And of course the girl, she bolts on that. She gets away from him because he's dangerous, which he is. But we know why he did it. He wanted to reach out. He wanted to expose himself. He wanted to be free to talk to someone, to let them know that this is how I feel and this is what I'm going through and this is who I am. And he gets rejected. Not only that, when he finally meets his idol, it's also a heart-wrenching disappointment and in fact an abuse. And we see it coming, and he doesn't. And it's amazing to see how he goes with it and he swallows it. No pun intended. But he uses it as fuel to create a different him. He's constantly in a mode of recreating, reworking himself. As I said, it's a painful performance. It's a painful film. To watch someone struggle is never good. Never a fun time at the movies. But Jonathan Majors is doing something here that very few actors do. Showing vulnerability at this level. Extreme vulnerability. Extreme defects. This is something I haven't really seen in films since the 70s. Something like Al Pacino or Dustin Hoffman back in the 70s when they played characters that were extremely flawed, extremely broken, and it would express all of that on the screen without any kind of reserve to protect their image, to protect their careers, just putting it all out there, being a character who's unlikable to a certain extent. As I said, this character is pitiful or pitiable, I should say, but he may not be likable. And the story itself doesn't allow us to like him. We don't see him in that light. The camera keeps us at a distance. Even when we're having close-ups, it doesn't give us his perspective on things. We're watching him. We're watching him struggle. We're voyeurs on this broken life and this broken man. It's a troubling film. And there are flaws. It's not a perfect film. I think some of the structure is a little wacky. Things happen that have no real consequences, or things that should have consequences don't have consequences, I should say. And there are other things that have consequences that really shouldn't. So it's really sort of a mess in terms of the narrative structure. But as I said before, the cinematography is wonderful. The performances are solid. And the general ideal of it is good. I think that this film really needs a good edit. It's too long, by the way. And I think it needed to be cut down probably by a half hour at least. And you would still get enough. Because some of Jonathan Majors' performance is somewhat repetitive. And I know it's done that way on purpose to reemphasize that this is his life. But we're the audience watching it, and it comes off as a repetitive thing for us because we've seen it, we understand, we know. For instance, we understand his training, his procedure, his meticulous nature, and how obsessed he is with it. I think that a little of that goes a long way. I also think that Jonathan Majors crying, I understand that he's very good at it, he's very emotive, but some of that should have been cut out. It should have been cut down. They could have chopped it out or chopped it down somewhat so that we didn't have to watch it, because once again, it became repetitive. There are some things in here that just don't belong. Red herrings here and there. As I said, the interaction with the girl, the girl that he asked to go out on a date with, it's done in a way, and I understand it because in the films in the 70s oftentimes did that, the abrupt break. I think it would have been better had it been less abrupt, more drawn out. Let's say she was trying more to connect with him and it failed. It would have been more heart-wrenching. As it was, it seemed like it was just another day for him, another day of failure. The same thing with his hero, the Brad hero, Michael Hearn character. It was a devastating thing, but the film plays it as just a moment in life. And even the follow-up, when we see where it goes, we don't really get the impact of that. But it doesn't seem that it would go to that level. It's almost as if he's walked it off, but then we see he hasn't. And we watch him disintegrate. But the disintegration doesn't work because we've already watched him disintegrate. We've already watched this man, as young kids say, crash out. So him crashing out some more just is a repetitive thing, as I said before. This film needs an edit. But it is there. And Jonathan Majors, I have to say it, Jonathan Majors is able to carry a film. I think he needed an editor here. I think that they needed a script that carried some more characters. His stepdad doesn't have a big enough role here. He should know. His stepdad or stepfather doesn't seem to understand the depths of his stepson's problems. If you were living with someone like that, I think you'd see it more clearly, and we don't see that here. And I think that's a missed opportunity. As I said, the people that co-work with him, his co-workers, his boss, I think they'd understand that this guy has real problems. And I have a problem with that, but people seem to think that he's just odd rather than troubled. Once again, is it worth watching? Yeah, I think it's worth watching if you can deal with something that's depressing, because there is a good performance here. Is the film great? No. Is it solid? I think it's a solid film that needs to edit. I think that the cinematography is stunning. Usually films that take place in claustrophobic areas like this, because this is all interiors of homes and kitchens and garages, backstages. Nothing here is grand or anything like that, but it's shot in such a way whoever the camera people are, the cinematographers, they really, really, really did an incredible job of giving this a cinematic feel. Even though half the time you're just in his bedroom or you're in a living room or a kitchen, but it has drama. The lighting, the colors they chose, just an incredible amount of work for something that is such a small film. And I really appreciate that because I understand how much work it takes to do things like that. And once again, my hat is off to Jonathan Majors. I hope that he can get his career in sync. I hope that he can make this happen. And I hope that he has the opportunity to give us more performances like this and better performances as he grows as an actor. This has been Cinema Gaze, and thank you.